3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, everyone. I am Stephen David Elliott, the founder and creator of Rockstar Connect. I will be the moderator today for this panel, just so we don't go into absolute and utter chaos. Yes, we have panelists here on the program. We will have more panelists joining us in the second hour. 3 Martini Lunch is broadcast to all the Facebook channels for Rockstar Connect around the country. So that's about 250 channels. Within the first few hours of this being broadcast, we'll have a few thousand views, probably over 5,000 views. There will be some participants joining us in the chat. They are not going to be on camera, but they can ask any question that they like, and we encourage them to put their information inside of the chat box. Sarah Elliot, my wife and my partner, and the Vice President of Operations for Rockstar Connect, is managing that room. We also have the HIO Virtual Lounge. For those of you who have not been on the program before, the HIO Virtual Lounge is your ability as an attendee or a panelist to jump in a room with other people and do a little bit of speed networking one-on-one for 7 minutes with an individual there and share all your information. All of the hosts' information is in that room, so you can connect with them there. The hosts will be dropping their information in the chat, as will Sarah. Sarah's going to drop information there too. I want to tell you, next week though, it's going to be really cool inside of the HIO Lounge. It's going to be really a different experience. Instead of you talking on one-on-one, it's going to be like, out of you panelists, who plays video poker or used to or has ever seen a video poker room? Okay, so you go into a video poker room and there's a whole bunch of tables, and then you pick the table that you want to sit at and you start playing poker. Well, you're going to go into a room and there's going to be a bunch of tables, 4 seats at every table. You can check out who's sitting at that table and decide to sit down with them and have a conversation amongst the 4 of you on video. So it's going to be a very different experience. You'll be able to jump from table to table and meet lots of people. That's coming down the pike next week. Also, the HIO, everything HIO will now be on computer. You won't have to do that on your phone anymore. So pay attention. If you have any questions in the chat, you're welcome to ask questions there. I'm going to put the panelists in the hot seat. The structure of this event is Success is Contagious. Now, Success is Contagious is a networking event that I started way back in 2008 during the Great Recession, and it was designed so that small business people could essentially have almost like their own 12-step program. They could converse with one another, they could fetch with one another, but most importantly, they would lift each other up through sharing their successes with one another. And because of that, they're able to achieve big things. Now, this can be done in person, and this can also be done virtually. Now, there's a lot of people are always saying, hey, you know, these virtual events, they're not the same as physical events. That is absolutely true. They're an approximation of a physical event. They are an enhancement of a physical event. Everyone that is on, you know, participating in the chat or is one of the panelists have been to a Rockstar Connect event around the country. There's hundreds of them. Many of the people that are panelists here have hosted their own events. So this is just an extension of us keeping our tribes in motion and managing our spheres of influences and growing them and serving the people that we do business with, and also our friends, our family, etc. So we're going to start off. What we're going to do, and I know you guys all want to know this, Leslie, I know you had some questions about this. I'm going to ask you who you are and what you do. Don't spend too much time on that, because the people that are listening, they don't really care what you do. They want to know about you. So all the questions that we participate with in this panel are going to be designed so people know about you, not so much about what you do. Who knows? You might be doing something different tomorrow. You may be so fed up with what you do that in 30 minutes, you're going to stop that and start something new. One of these panelists may encourage you to do that. Like, I know Asa Fleming, although he has a house there, if he could quit real estate tomorrow and start a business with Scott Rutter, he would do it in a New York minute. Right, Asa? Like if you guys came up with something new and exciting and cool, you'd say, buy real estate. Exactly. So I'm going to start off with Katia. Katia and I had a great discussion this morning on her show, and it explained a little bit about what my why is and what my philosophy is. And my philosophy is we're all about helping one another. We're about opportunities. It's not about what you do for a living. It's about who you are as a person. So Katia, why don't you jump right in it? Tell us a little bit about what you do. More about what your success has been this week.
Well, my success this week, we're going to start with that. I was supposed to get married last Saturday. That was our original wedding, and we had to move it because of COVID. And we really had a great attitude. The kids had a great attitude about it and made us feel special. And Steve and I just took the time to just like really go down the wedding and what we were going to do. So it was really a success because we made it a wedding even without the wedding date. And I think, this is the silver lining of everything. Whether we are in our lives or in our business, we really need to look at how can we make everything just still look good and have a great attitude about it. And so that was a huge success for us.
Well, that's what we discussed earlier today. First of all, Steve is not me. I am not marrying Katia.
No, my Steve.
Steve is her fiance. I'm Steve N, so there's no confusion. But the success is life itself. It's those little things that happen every day, which is a success. Getting out of bed and going and grabbing your cup of coffee, even though you want to stay in bed for a few more minutes. Waking up feeling a little bit down and out and sad, but then you go do about what you're going to do and you lift yourself out of it. Right. My big success this week, and I want to jump to it before Domenic says something, is I got a haircut on Sunday. And I happen to feel like, looking at this room of men, I have the best looking hair of any man on this panel. 100% I can say that with certainty, and that's my success for the week. I'm going to go with that. Let's jump over to, while I have Leslie sort of cracking up and laughing over there, we're going to jump over to Leslie Flowers, who's new as a panelist today. She is nationally known. Many people know who she is. She's going to tell you about a little bit what she does, but mostly she's going to share her success, which is going to tell you a lot about her personally. Go ahead, Leslie.
Okay. So my specialty, and I guess my gift here, after a dozen years becoming an expert in a specific area, is connecting a whole bunch of people in a mastermind experience. And my success is that since COVID, I've taken 2 groups that I manage and I've monetized them. I found a way for people to know, like, and trust. One is local and one is global. And when my kids were in school, for 10 years, I managed a band competition on the field with 3,000 people. And it made all sorts of money in a 6-hour period. So really what I'm finding out is that I'm sort of the mama bird. And today, for example, I had 8 people on 2 different networks presenting their curriculum live. That's what I'm doing now. I do private masterminds, but it seems that it's this collection of people all moving in a very specific direction with a very specific goal that is my sweet spot.
That's a terrific success. What it sounds like, Mama Bird, is some of those birds are leaving the nest. You gave them the little push out and now they're doing their own thing. So that means you have a little more room in the nest. So if anyone would like to reach out to Leslie, she's going to drop her information into the chat so you can reach out and have more of a conversation with her.
Thank you.
I'd like to welcome back to the panel Elyse Archer. Elyse is in Georgia, and she has been a Rockstar Connect host for years in North Carolina and in Georgia. And she helped us get one of our first Rockstar Connect hosts. It's still with us after 4 years down in Naples. And she is sort of a big deal. Sort of a big deal.
I'll take it.
So she's going to share her success with you and whatever she wants to share. Go ahead, Elyse.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me back. This is so fun. So, oh gosh. So real quick, what I do, I'm a personal brand strategist and I'm a video confidence coach. And my success for this week, it's really been, I would say, the success for the past month or two is I'm just having a lot of fun. I don't know if it's, I normally work from home and I don't know if it's something in the air with everyone being at home right now, but I'm suddenly inspired to like redo my entire house and was devastated last week to find out Pier 1 was going out of business, but I've since bought up probably most of their inventory to redo the house. And so we're just having fun. I'm enjoying life. I focused for a long time, like all on work and was just so like day in, day out, 12, 14-hour days working. And I'm really enjoying like the fruits of my labor. And I would say the other success is tomorrow, having my 3-year wedding anniversary with my husband, who I met through Rockstar. So that's also a big success and something that we're really grateful for.
Yes, I forgot to mention, Elyse did meet her husband through Rockstar Connect. And we're friendly with her and her husband, and we've done business, lots of real estate transactions, introduced each other to people all over the world that we feel we could help. So, I mean, that's part of networking. It's always looking to see what other people in your network are trying to achieve and helping them to achieve that. Another person on our panel who is a regular, who is great at doing that, is Rhonda Sher. She is joining us from California. Rhonda, you know the drill. What's your success?
Well, my success is I actually got my green screen and my background all set up. I'm so excited. Domenic, you inspired me, so thank you. I really took it to the next level. I'm on so many Zooms and I thought, oh my gosh, I need to do this. So, and the other thing that was really cool is I did a very cool webinar last week for real estate agents on how to leverage LinkedIn. What I do is I teach people how to leverage the power of LinkedIn and have a system that teaches people how to generate 2 to 10 appointments a week effortlessly and automatically just using this platform. I like to say, Stephen, that I get people out of witness protection on LinkedIn because people are so qualified and yet they're best kept secrets. So yeah, so my biggest win was I got this done and my husband and I cleaned out the garage, which was huge. That was like such a big deal. So
that's a marriage.
That are big.
You can ask Scott Rutter about that. Rhonda is working on my LinkedIn, and she does that for me periodically. Every 6 months, she does an evaluation, and she cleans it up. My team will be getting you the sign-in stuff today. Sarah, we let Alan know to do that. And then you can all check it out. When should they check it out? In about 2 weeks?
Yeah, because you know what? This is such an awesome platform. I absolutely love this. And I hope that even when you go back to doing the live events, that we still have this, because this is just such a great thing. And it's an opportunity for people to get in front of people, nationally, right? Which they normally wouldn't. Like, where else? I had a great conversation with Barbara, who you had on last week, who does the organization. So many amazing people. I had a great conversation with Domenic. There's so many amazing people that are here that if we were going to the events, we wouldn't have that opportunity. Elyse and I've spoken before. So, I love this and I hope that it stays. And what I want to do is just, put it front and center on LinkedIn so that people will have an opportunity to jump into this as well as the live events, because it's just ingenious, Stephen.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's something we're definitely going to keep on doing. We're going to be unite. It's a great way for us to unite our hosts all around the country. And I got to tell you, these panelists that have been on here, they've been doing a lot of business with one another. I've spoken with a lot of people individually, and we're talking about tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of business being passed back and forth, either direct business with one another or making referrals to one another and making connections. Sarah's dropped in there if you want to consider being a future panelist. There is availability. Check it out, and she'll give you a little interview or someone from our team. But Rhonda, so I'm going to tell everyone now that's out there listening and listening to the videotape, check out my current LinkedIn. I'll connect with you if you're not connected, and then check back in about a month, and it'll be something completely different. You should have seen the way it originally was. It just gets better all the time. I'm very excited today that we have someone else here from California, someone I consider a great friend that I had the opportunity to finally meet in person after 3 years, a couple months ago. Stephen Powell out in the Coachella Valley area. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what your successes have been, which I know are many and great.
Oh, we're going to be here for a while. There's a lot. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, it is a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invite. And gosh, it was amazing to have had shared some nosh with you and broke bread at your home. Thank you for your hospitality.
Oh, my pleasure. What did we do? Bagels and lox? I can't.
We did bagels, lox, homemade pumpkin pie, homemade whipped cream, and fruit. Oh, it was good. And then you had the dish that your father makes.
Oh gosh, was it matzo brie? Did we make matzo brie?
It was a fish.
It was a fish. What did I make? Oh, the lox, the smoked salmon.
Well, that was there, but it was like a white fish.
Oh, I made a white fish salad. Yeah. Take the white fish off the bone. And have you ever made this, Katia? You put in, mayo and onions and celery and carrot. Basically, you did, the dish originated because whitefish was really expensive. I mean, you went to a delicatessen to buy whitefish and smoked salmon, thus delicatessen delicacy. And usually that was the only grocery shopping the Jewish men did. They would go in on Sunday, they would go to the delicatessen, and that's where you could show if you were a big deal. Because some people come, they go, okay, I want the little pieces, they'd be real quiet. And then there are guys who go, oh, I want a pound of whitefish and I want 2 pounds of smoked salmon. That means you were a real macher, a real big deal. And everybody would know that you could afford to buy those great delicacies.
And it's really good.
Yeah, so we're going a little off subject, but Steve, why don't you share a success with us?
Thank you so much. So I'm a managing broker for Fathom Realty. It's 100% cloud brokerage here in the Greater Palm Springs area, but we're nationwide. My specialty is, I'd say, thinking out of the box, coming up with a creative solution, helping guide people. And I was giving a lot of thought to coming on this panel, and I just wanted to throw out to not just the panelists, but to everyone here, because I've seen a lot of success come out of COVID. I've seen a lot of people having immense struggles out of COVID that are in sales. And as I was thinking about it this morning, I just want to say this: you cannot change the laws of physics. It does not matter what's going on. The fundamentals of sales are the same, regardless. So they can come and knock your building down, but they can't do anything about the bedrock foundation that you have. So just, hunker down, rebuild, the building will go up really fast. And I've seen that. People that have been distracted, they're distracted. People that have stayed focused and have kept their vision and their goals out in front of them, they're doing well. So the successes that I've had just, in the past 2 weeks, I've put 8 homes under contract. And it was funny, I had a friend of mine call me this morning that I haven't talked to. He's like, it's time to wake up. He goes, homes don't sell themselves. And I said, well, actually they do. They do sell themselves. You do it right. But anyway, that's some success that I've had this week, as well as just keeping a forward momentum.
That's fantastic. And we're very excited because, California has done very well during this emergency. Knock on wood, it could have been a hell of a lot worse, and they're doing great. And we can't wait to have live networking events back in the Coachella Valley. Steven's had his own events going on now for 4 years straight, and he's achieved great things. And as far as real estate, it's amazing how real estate is here in this market. I had 3 people reach out to me in social media, and they're not even being shy. It's not like they're private messaging. They're saying, I want to talk to you. And I said, I'll talk to you tomorrow. And they say, here's my phone number. Call me tonight. And having these conversations at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, getting them prepared to achieve that success, the next success in their life. I'm going to go over to our good friend, Mark Sher in Florida. Mark is a host in Florida in Coral Gables. He lives in Brickell. He's been doing his event now for 3 years. Florida is one of those states that we hope to be doing events live face-to-face in July, although they will be somewhat abbreviated. We are going to be doing them there. Mark, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what has been your success this week.
Great. My name is Mark Sher. I'm a registered financial consultant, and we specialize in teaching people financial literacy. I'm a Florida cracker, and for those of you that don't know, I'm one of the few people that's actually from Florida that are my age. And you, but you don't live here anymore.
No, I got out of Dodge.
See? Yeah. Anyway, so that being said, my greatest success this week was I speak on national stages. I've spoken at the Money Show, and one of my favorite subjects is what your CPA doesn't know and what your financial planner doesn't want you to know. And I was contacted by a CPA firm. Someone had saw a video of one of the talks I did as a keynote speaker, and they go, "You said a couple of things in there which we'd love to do a little Zoom meeting." So I had 22 CPAs from a mid-sized firm, and it was pretty interesting. The best part about it was anyone who's on the panel that has a qualified plan, an IRA, a SEP, a Roth, a 401k, a 403b, if you work for the government, a 457 plan, or if you work for yourself, you could have a defined benefit or defined contribution plan. Put your hand up. Anybody? I see a couple. Okay, great. So this was an interesting, what your CPA doesn't know. So we were talking specifically about qualified money, which is one of those types of plans. And I said to them, let me ask you guys a question. I have an awesome business deal. I know you don't know me, but here's how it's going to work. I want you to put in all the money. I want you to take all the risk. I want you to manage your business on a day-to-day basis. And then in timeline of horizon, whether it's 10, 20, 30 years from now, I'm going to come back around and tell you how much I owe of your business. Do you want to go into business with me? And they all laughed at me. So I said, so who's got a qualified plan? They all put up their hands because the company had one. But I said, so let's just take a 401k. So you're getting a match, I know that, but are you putting your money into the plan before you get the match? They all said yes. And I said, it's not if, it's when the market has a downward cycle. Does the government say, let me give you back all the money you just lost? They all said no. And I said, you guys all have 401ks. Are you aware that the company you work for charges you to manage the money? And it's funny, their CPAs, 3/4 of them had no idea that they're actually charged a fee because money doesn't get managed for free, as I'm sure Domenic can tell you as well. And then I said, so, and you do realize that when you go to retire, the government's going to come and put their hand out for 10 to 40% of everything. And they just looked shocked. And they said, run that by me again. And then they said, we've been telling our clients the wrong thing, haven't we? And I said, exactly. So to me, that's a great success because
that's a big breakthrough, 22 people at once. That's a good use of a digital tool right there.
Exactly. So anyway, so that was a good week for me. And the best news is, you know what the best news is, Stephen?
What's that?
June 1st, we can go back to the Monroe County, to the Keys.
Yeah, because you can go boating again, June 1st. Excellent.
There you go.
So
that's been my week.
That's a big success. Guys, in the second hour, I don't usually tell you what the subject is going to be, but this is a little more difficult of a subject than we've done before. So I'm going to tell you now so you can start thinking about it. The subject that we're going to discuss was, what is the biggest career or business mistake you've made in your life? And how has it impacted you today, good or bad? And I'm hoping it's for the good. I'm gonna go over to one of my favorite panelists. I'm so glad that he's agreed to be on every week, and I'm gonna hold him to it. Brian McNeill, the sales god. Go ahead, Brian. You have to unmute yourself, Brian.
It's nice. I feel like I've been promoted to be called one of your favorite panelists. I appreciate that very much. Yes, I've always enjoyed this panel here because I meet some great people. I want to say shouts out to our friend Asa Fleming. I haven't seen him in many years. And I'm so excited that Bruce is on here today as well, because last night, every Monday night, I give a class called Monday Night Sales Mastery. And Bruce was on my class last night. I gave a class called How to Sell Your Services Faster. So I do that every Monday night for free. But my name is Brian McNeill, and I start off each time I'm introduced by letting everyone know that our lives are not scrimmages or practice games. There is no Martyrs Hall of Fame. Time to feaster takes its toll. And for all of us, every day really is the Super Bowl. And today is the Super Bowl for all of us, too, because we are entrepreneurs. But what I do is I help people to sell themselves and their services better. And I'm excited about being
What's the
here
great
today.
success this week? What's your great success?
My success this week is my Selling Your Services Academy is growing fabulously. Every Wednesday night, I give online training on how to sell yourself and your services. And I said a couple of weeks ago on here that I wanted to grow my online academy, your Selling Your Services Academy. And I'm really, really excited about the growth of it in the last 2 weeks, which is going to help me to just, well, I always work from home anyway, but the Selling Your Services Academy growth is what I'm most excited about. Thanks.
Can you please share your information down there? I heard you say something about free, and people like free stuff. And we need
to. I have some free, and I'll put it in here.
Especially if it's good quality free stuff. Any of our panelists that have a little freebie or they have some information they want to share, please drop it into the chat. If you don't have that information now, we'll make sure that it gets out to everyone as well. Since you mentioned Asa Fleming, Asa, you and I have never met, but I mean, I'm sure that, I've seen your name everywhere. I think you're like on 14 boards and you have like a million hobbies and you're very passionate about helping, other people in your profession as well as your clients. Quickly tell us about yourself and what has been your success this week, Asa.
So thank you so much for that, and I really appreciate it. Thank you to Scott for, I feel honored to even be part of this panelist. It's good to see you, Brian, and Elyse. Elyse, I haven't seen you in years, but it's good to see that you're doing well. I sell real estate. I'm a realtor with Alan Tate here in Raleigh over on Glenwood. And, like he said, that's what I do, but, who am I, right? I'm an advocate. I advocate. I'm an advocate, and I advocate for people, in my community, my clients, and my industry. I can give you an example. I'm past president of the North Carolina Realtors, and so happy to say that our legislative team was able to, when we were going into this COVID-19 situation, sort of work with the governor to make sure that we were considered essential. And one of the reasons why, because most people would say, oh, well, they're just trying to stay paid. They just want to do their thing.
Well, we need to get paid.
Right. But what it really was about was we had 26,000 transactions in the pipeline. So if you think about it, that's 52,000 sides. And these are families that would be directly impacted if this was going to be shut down. And so we advocated for that and we won it. We were able to, not allow this to be a backlog. So that's where we win. I always say I advocate for my community in that way as well. I also serve on a couple of nonprofits, just trying to push for affordable housing. Now, for my success, I always believe in that, you have to breathe out in order to breathe in. You have to give in order to receive. And that feel like, well, how do you know if you're giving too much? They're the ones that are sort of keeping track of what they're receiving. And so you got to give first and give without even thinking to receive.
No expectations.
No expectations. And so my success this week was that I was able to help 4 families get out of a situation because they lost their job and get their house going. And then I was able to close on 4 situations, 4 transactions that was able to free up people to get them out of a situation that they were in COVID. I also was able to spend time throughout this with my family and get my house work done because I have people painting my house and doing my trim right now as we speak. So
that's a great success. I have a question. So you didn't start off, you weren't born a real estate agent.
No.
What was your first career? Were you a social worker, a teacher, a politician?
I went to school for, I have a degree from NC State in pre-law, criminal justice and all that, but I ended up being in accounting in New York City and working for $1.1 billion receivable for New York Hospital. And what I did there was basic inpatient accounting, and I was responsible for about $400 million a year. And that's sort of where I cut my teeth in business. When we did the merger, I was in a room where there were 78 managers and 50 jobs. So that was a harsh reality. And so while I survived that, I wanted to make sure that I got into something that I kind of, sealed my own fate. I decided my own fate. And so I got into real estate in Queens, and I ended up moving back here to North Carolina. And, been successful. I got back here in 2001, and the rest is history.
Well, North Carolina is all the better for it. We're glad you're here in our state.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Scott Rutter is and I just yelled and blew out all your eardrums on that one. I get very excited when I say this gentleman's name. Scott Rutter is responsible for you being on the show today. He said, "Hey, have you ever thought of asking, Asa on? He's very impactful and he's a great speaker." And I said, "Thank you, Scott, because it's hard to look at all the great people out there and find the right ones." But Scott, tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what has been your success this week.
Yeah, certainly, Stephen. Thank you so much. So my success was that I got to go to the pool with my family for 2 days this weekend, which was really, really nice. As well as I won for the Goosehead Corporation, second place for the Mid-Atlantic region for selling the most home and auto insurance. So that was a big victory being new to the business. So, and yeah, just super blessed to be on here with everyone today. A little bit about me: father, 3 kids, 3 months into insurance, and of course, part of the Rockstar family.
That's great. Terrific successes. I'm going to move over to Chris Rogers. Now, Chris is going to have the fantastic ability. He is going to be, and I know we started a discussion with this, we haven't nailed everything down, but the first Rockstar Connect live events that will be going on in the country starting in July will be at the Sullivan Steakhouse in Raleigh, North Carolina. We're going to do as big events as we are allowed to do by law, and be very safe and encourage all of our hosts and attendees to attend. So we want to thank you, Chris, for that. You've been a great friend of Rockstar Connect, as has Sullivan's. And I want you to know everyone supports you. Tell us quickly about yourself, but share a little bit more about your successes. That's what we want to hear about.
Yes. So first and foremost, it is so great to see all your lovely faces as usual. I see you guys all in different groups and circles, and just makes my day because it actually adds a little bit of, talk to my day, essentially. So my name is Chris Rogers. I'm the Regional Marketing and Events Coordinator for Sullivan Steakhouse of Charlotte and Raleigh, North Carolina. So as of last Friday, we were allowed to open our restaurants, but we decided to wait. So we are going to be opening this upcoming Thursday, finally, at 5 o'clock for dinner only, which is my big success for the week. We've had 2.5 months in this building to completely refurbish, clean up, fill in every little ding, and try to make it ready for when you guys are ready to come back. So very excited to say we will be opening Thursday night. My phones are already ringing off the hook for reservations, for booking parties, and we can't thank you guys enough for all the support that we've been shown through the last 2.5 months. It's been a long time. Oh, and my other biggest success is I finally get to put a suit back on. So no more chef coats.
Gosh, okay, that putting on a suit, that's not much of a success. If you told me you were changing into sweatpants and that's going to be the new what everyone can wear while we dine, something with really stretchy waist, that would be much more exciting. That being said, Chris has really been a leader here in the area. He's not only have they provided service during this period of time, their social media has been on point, and they've shared their policies. And I notice a lot of other restaurants locally, and literally just cut and paste what Chris puts out. They'll cut and paste it, and they say that's a policy we're going to have too. So that's what you find in situations like this, if people become leaders and are able to help other people in their careers. We're not competition. We're colleagues, and we have to keep that in mind, whether we be in real estate, we're sales coaches, in finance, what have you. Domenic, our panelist Domenic, had to jump off the call. I was going to share with him that I am trying a new cocktail today, It is one of my successes. It's Campari with orange juice. And it, 2 ingredients and ice, absolutely delicious. I recommend everyone out there try it. Mark Roberts, if you can unmute yourself.
Absolutely.
Mark Roberts is a Rockstar Connect host. He hosts the downtown Rockstar Connect group. He also hosts a Success is Contagious event, which is our morning event, which we are duplicating here. He will be participating when we do our first relaunches at Sullivan as one of the hosts. We're going to require a lot of hosts to make sure this goes smoothly and everyone stays safe. Mark, what is a little bit about yourself and your greatest successes for this week?
Absolutely. Thank you. Run 2 companies. One is called Key Concepts, where we do business coaching and business consulting. The other is The Office Nerds, and hence my buddy here, Erwin, behind me. He's Erwin the Office Nerd, where we do bookkeeping and business support. In terms of the big success for this week, and it was very, very timely with Memorial Day, I was just accepted onto the board of the Price of Freedom Foundation. And I would love if people would go out there on the Facebook and join that page and start watching. We're looking to take care of our Gold Star families in a very nice and creative way. Foundation is just getting started, but being admitted to that board as we're starting to grow and develop has been fantastic. And you'll probably see a lot more about that very, very soon. I'll reach out to everyone. Love for people to get involved. And very quick and succinctly, that is what we did this week.
Okay, that's excellent. And did you get to go boating again this week?
I realized I don't go boating. I go boat maintenancing. Yes, we were down there fixing up the boat, doing a couple little repairs and updates, and soon we'll get her out on the water. I'll probably have the sails up this weekend.
Yeah, I'd have to say that the country is opening up quite a bit. I run one of my Facebook community pages that I run is in Lake Gaston. And
good one.
Over the weekend, we had 1,200 people join that page. We're getting 20 people join that page an hour now. Sometimes, some hours we'll have 100 people join because people are ready to go out on their boat. They're ready to go on vacation. People are looking to purchase second homes so that if, God forbid there's a flare up, and I hope there isn't, I don't think there will be, they do have a place to go. They want to make sure they're quarantined in the nicest environment possible. And I think you got your boat at exactly the right time. You're going to have much more friends than you ever thought possible.
Outstanding.
But what I want you to tell them is when they go on the boat and they they ask you to chip in for pizza, that's not the way it works. They have to pay for the whole pizza. And you're air powered, so there's no gas. We don't have to worry about that.
Well, we do have an onboard, which is very useful for the river there till we get out there. We have a little bit of room to sail.
Okay. Have you connected with Mark Sher yet? Have you guys had a conversation?
Yes, we have.
Okay, great, because he is the expert of running a business from a boat. And that's why, is it June 1st they're opening up the keys again for boating? That's why June 1st is such an important date to him.
Yeah. And we had a great talk on some safety and some other classes that he's talked me into. So it's been fantastic.
Excellent. Last but not least, amongst our panelists, I have Bruce Hill. Bruce, get ready to unmute yourself. And I was talking during our team meeting. We have a team meeting every day at 9 a.m. Our staff and team is all around the United States and around the world, actually. And Scott participates in those team calls. And I said, make sure that Bruce Hill is back on because he genuinely likes being on the panel. He's not nervous in the least bit. He sort of sits up in his chair when his name is mentioned and he gets, oh, I was right. And he gets very excited about it. And you can see that he's a great coach and why he has so many dedicated clients. So I guess I told a little bit about you. I said you're a coach. So why don't you jump right into your success and you can drop into the chat how people can reach out to you.
Sure, I'm dropping it in right now. So Bruce Hill, I run a real estate coaching and training platform called The Agent DNA. And my success this week is twofold. Number one is my wife left town for Indiana a couple of days ago. And so far, 3 full days in, I've made myself at least 2 meals a day instead of eating fast food. I vacuumed the house, which is amazing, and I haven't let our dog die. So I feel really great about that. In reality, the biggest success that I feel like I've had this week is actually practicing some of the things that I preach. And I tell everybody not to let your business control you and control your day, to take time every single day to think and process and journal. And I am a huge hypocrite most of the time, and I don't do that, except for this week. I've actually started every single day, every single morning with just 20 minutes of journaling and mapping out my day, mapping out projects that are going to drive my personal business forward instead of getting wrapped up in the day-to-day grind.
That's very good. Now, I've been walking the dog with Sarah every single day. She always used to walk the dog, but now she walks the dog, and sometimes our younger daughter goes with, and it's more along the lines of she's walking all of us now. So her job has become a little bit more difficult. But the last 2 times we've gone out for a walk, I've turned my phone off and left my phone in the house so that I can be completely involved in that family time and not be distracted. I figured it's a 30-minute walk. The world will not end when I'm gone.
That's a big win. That's a big win.
Oh my gosh, it feels like, I'm trying to lose weight right now. It feels like I lost 50 pounds just not carrying that phone on that walk. The walk is a lot more enjoyable. I don't know whether Sarah noticed that I've been leaving the phone, but I think you have. Thank you, Bruce. Domenic is back. We thought you had disappeared. Oh, you had to reboot. Everything froze up on him. Is that okay for me to share? Because it was private. I guess it's okay. So I'm drinking a new drink, Domenic, today. I bought a bottle of Campari last week, and I've tried it with different things. I couldn't make that, aperitif with Prosecco because I didn't have any of that. But today I put it with orange juice.
Yeah, how's that working out for you?
Oh, very good. It may turn me into a diabetic because it's particularly sweet, and I'm not used to drinking that much sugar in one glass.
It is mostly sugar, no alcohol.
But if I
Very
do,
little.
I think if I just keep it to 1 a week on Tuesdays, I'll be absolutely fine. So Domenic, a little bit about what you do. Domenic is a regular panelist. He's a Rockstar Connect host. And when we do have the virtual North Carolina events, he kindly gives me the night off, and he moderates that event in a similar structure to the way we do this event with the Success is Contagious. So that may be something you want to talk about, how you've had success virtually and any other successes that you've had, Domenic.
Sure. Well, thanks for introducing me, Stephen. As he said, my name is Domenic Battistella. I am a business continuity specialist with New York Life, which means that I help your company prepare for the predictable, ensure the unknown, and secure the future. So what Stephen was talking about is absolutely true. I've gotten an opportunity, thanks to him, to be able to moderate most of the North Carolina events. And it doesn't mean that I'm hosting them. It just means that, there's got to be a master of ceremonies to keep things going, just like you see in the 3 Martini lunch. And what that allows me to do is have meaningful conversations with all the people who attend, keep conversations flowing, make positive connections for people, and help people share their success. So that's one of the successes that I've had this week and in past weeks. And actually, I think I want to share something more personal this week. Getting an opportunity to get out and be able to spend some time with people. I got to attend a seafood boil this weekend. So it was the first official party that I've been to since prior to everything shutting down and the stay-at-home orders. So I'm really excited to get an opportunity to see people face to face again. So I consider that a tremendous success.
That is a great success. In North Carolina, we are in phase 2 of our opening. We are allowed to go to events with 10 or less people Currently, if they're outdoors, we can go to events with up to 25 people. We just need to keep our distance. When possible, we wear masks, etc. We had a great little barbecue yesterday at our house. We've set up an area in our house where any guests are automatically 6 feet away from us. And it's really improved our mood to be able to see people. It's enabled us to do some business as well with some people that we have to meet with face to face. We've had people that have driven a couple hours here to Raleigh to sit down with us to discuss, what Rockstar Connect is going to be doing in the next few months as the country opens up. Leslie, thank you for the tip regarding the orange juice. She wrote that too much orange juice can cause kidney stones. And kidney stones have got to be the worst things. People say all things will pass. Kidney stones, unfortunately, when they pass, you don't want them. You want them to pass, but it's going to hurt while it happens. I very rarely drink orange juice because immediately that much sugar has an incredible bad effect on me, probably more so than the Campari that's in it. But thank you for watching out for my health and everyone else's health. So everyone has got the opportunity to introduce themselves and share their success. So Domenic, you missed out on this, so I'll let you go sort of towards the middle or end. But I want everyone to share with me and share with the audience and everyone out in social media land what your biggest career mistake to date has been. How has it impacted you for better or worse? And we're hoping it's for better. I'm going to start off with, and she knows who I'm going to start off with her, right? Elyse Archer. You can unmute.
I did not know you were going to start off with me. I was sitting here trying to think of what it was. But no, I can, look, I've made plenty. The immediate one that comes to mind, because I'm coming up on about the 2-year anniversary of it, is about 2 years ago, I was a partner in an international 8-figure sales coaching organization, had built a really big business and great team and had tons of clients and life was good. And my intuition was telling me that it was time to go. There were just some changes happening in the company and I ignored my intuition for a while and ended up having a very big, very unexpected, very traumatic exit from that company. And at the time, I literally had to reinvent. I had to start over completely, had to get rid of all my old social media, my old brand, my old presence. And I went through, so there are a couple of mistakes wrapped up in this story. One was not trusting my intuition, but I went through a period of probably 2 months of really just focusing on the past and kind of like staying stuck in the what if this hadn't happened and what if I had done something differently. And it was a really challenging time in my life and in my career. And I didn't know what I was going to do to reinvent myself at that point because sales and sales coaching had been my whole life in my career up until that point. And so one of the big lessons that I learned, because I finally snapped out of it and it was like, this is done. You're not going back. Life is different now. And it's time to look for the new opportunity. It ended up being the biggest unexpected blessing. I was forced to totally reinvent myself. I was forced to go into a totally new industry, have to rebuild my brand and my presence from scratch. So for anyone today who's looking at, maybe your business model has changed to where you have to do things online or you haven't been really intentional about social media and you're realizing now you have to be, and you're thinking it's too late. It's not too late. You can do it. You can have a really successful business. You can have a really successful online presence, and you can start today with it. So you're not too far behind. Today is the day to start, right? If you're feeling like you're behind. And so it's ended up, like I said, being the biggest blessing because who I've become in the process is someone who's so much more resourceful, creative. I get to have bigger conversations, and I love what I do now. But what I would tell myself previously was that when something happens and when things change really quickly on a dime and maybe something we thought was our future, our life is almost, it feels like it's ripped away from you. There's a reason that's happening. It's usually you've been kind of ignoring the nudges along the way that it's time to make a shift. And sometimes, God, the universe, life kind of knocks you on the head. It's like, it's time to make the shift now. I know a lot of us are experiencing that now. And being open to just the what is, the what so of your situation makes all the difference in the world. Accepting it, not holding on to the past and saying, what's next, right? Believing that this is all happening for me. And if so, if that's the case, what's the gift in this? And what am I meant to do? What am I meant to change? And so it's ended up being a great gift and a great blessing. And I hope that's helpful to people.
It certainly is. And it reminds me of an old Yiddish expression that the expression, I'll do it in English, is men make plans and God laughs. So you could have planned to make that exit and put everything in place and transferred everything over, and it might have gotten you into a lot of problems and a lot of troubles if you had done that, even though it seemed like it would have been the right plan. So sometimes you just do have to act with your instinct, and you may have a little bit of doubt, but push that doubt aside, because the best laid plans of mice and men.
Yeah.
Rhonda, Sher, it's over to you. So biggest career mistake and how it impacted you, good or bad?
I don't know if I would say it was a mistake, but I was a paralegal for 20 years. And I think I stayed too long, since I was truly meant to be a serial entrepreneur. But I think how it impacted me in a really good way is I got so good at doing the research for all of the attorneys, with LexisNexis, that it really helped me to become an expert on LinkedIn, because the logic of how I search on LinkedIn and connect the dots is very similar to what I learned as a paralegal. The other great thing that came from it was when my kids were young, I had the perfect job. I literally worked from 8 to 12 every day, so I could come home and spend the afternoon with my kids. But that was in the days, and I'm really dating myself, but I had a defined benefit pension plan. So to this day, I still get this pension for the rest of my life. So for all of the suffering that I did and staying too long, it just keeps paying and paying. Every month I just keep getting that really nice check for the rest of my life. And I use the skills that I learned. But I think the mistake was I stayed way too long, because I was really meant to be a serial entrepreneur. I was never meant for corporate life.
But the good thing is you have a foundation that many serial entrepreneurs do not have, in organization and research. I mean, frequently, Rhonda will allow me to go to her with a problem, and it's to say, oh, I can't figure this out. I don't have this resource. And she'll okay, let's take a deep breath. And she never tells me what to do, ever. You never tell me you have to do this, and she's this way with her clients. She says, did you ever look at it this way? What about from this perspective? Have you tried this? I go, that's awesome. Can you tell Sarah so she can explain it to me? Right? Isn't that what I always say?
That's actually really true. For people that don't know me, I have a funny story. I married the same guy twice. So I was married for 28 years. I got divorced I was divorced for 6 years, and then 4 years ago I remarried my ex-husband. So I jokingly say I have a husband, didn't have to change my name, and the kids are ours.
How California of you.
Yeah, but here's the part that's really interesting, Stephen. When I was on a date with actually the dean of one of the Cal State schools, it was more like an interview. And he said, Rhonda, what's your greatest strength, right? And I'd say, oh, I'm a resource. And he said, well, what's your greatest weakness? And I said, well, if you asked me to close my eyes and tell you what was on the table, we were at a restaurant, I couldn't tell you, but I could tell you everything that's missing. And that was one of those aha moments, because what he said was, well, an undergrad could tell you what's on a table, but a graduate student can tell you what's not. So my gift has always been to be able to start from the end and then work forward, right? And see exactly what's missing. And I'm glad that I've been able to do that. The only ones I tell what to do are my kids, and they don't listen anyway. So there you go.
No, that's just an exercise in futility. Information referral, it's something that always comes up on these panels. The ability to have knowledge, and when you don't have the knowledge, to identify and refer to someone that has the knowledge. And when you have a great network and you're able to put your hands on information and touch on people that are smarter than yourself or have talents that you don't have, regularly, your success is amplified. It's the contagion of success. And Leslie teaches this in her masterminds, how to have that mindset where you can work with other people in order to be greater than just yourself. to pipe yourself into the experience of working with other people. But, she's very similar to you, Rhonda. She's had some interesting careers and a very interesting life. I'm sure you have a career mistake that will be demonstrative to everyone who's listening in Facebook land. Go ahead, Leslie.
I have several, actually, lots of them, because I'm very old now. What I can tell you is I made it this far. I'm living the life that I love. Probably the biggest mistake was never really taking business seriously. As a baby boomer and married for 30 years, I never paid any attention to the books, accounting, taxes, and the couple of times that I did try it, I wasn't very good at it, and so my husband just took it right back and I didn't argue. I think I went from 14 to 55. So if you ever had a 14-year-old grandchild or child, they're adolescents, they're emotionally, they know everything, an expert on everything. That was me. And I would fight to be right the rest of my life. But one day I woke up at 55 and began learning and studying universal laws and business principles because it interested me. I don't know why I was interested in Thinking Grow Rich. It's a 100-year-old volume and it's filled with 20,000 words more than it needs to be. But what I realized was that it was also that I could help women learn these business principles and universal laws that men have used for 5,000 years, but they don't know how to leverage it. So it's more inherent. My personal mission is to crush the wage gap by 2025, and it's expected to close 2054, based on statistics here and in Europe, men and women doing the same thing. I'm happy to say that 12 years and 14,000 hours and 6 books and 135 masterminds, all of my clients have already crushed the wage gap. They're able to predict their goal. They set a goal based on benchmarks, information that was not available to women so that they can go toe to toe. But I'm not an easy person to get along with. And I've always worried about what other people think about me. And I'm now just learning as an older woman that as long as I follow my heart and I'm helping others become successful, that I don't need to worry about those who don't like me. And there are lots of those who do. It doesn't matter. So right now I live the life that I love. I'm an Uber Nana half the time, and I miss that because I'm not shuttling my 4 grandkids around. I'm a nanopreneur. I do exactly what I want, teach exactly what I want, and I only have 2 private clients because they have to be my ideal. So what I've learned is I've made a lot of mistakes, I've made a lot of enemies, but my gift is the ability to articulate complex concepts in very simple, easy to understand and apply terms. And I'm living inside of it, and I love it, and I do only what I love.
Well, I think that could also be, probably a better representation of what your success is. I think that that's a problem that a lot of people have, and I've had it, and almost everyone I've ever spoken to. There's a certain point in your life where you just say, you know what, I really don't care what other people think about me because they don't really know me. Who knows you but yourself? And also, in addition to that, once you can step aside from that and recognize, I worked for an organization once, and my superior or my boss or whatever it is brought me in and said, 50% of the people in this company hate you. And I said, 50% of the people in this company hate me. That means 50% of the people in the company probably love me. And if I ran for president of the United States, that's all I need to win. And she looked at me and she said, "You're absolutely right." You know, it's just fundamental to realize that you're as a networker, and we're all networkers. This is a networking event. This is a program on networking. If you decided that you were a network, it comes with a responsibility to help all boats rise. But you can't force people to do things that they don't want to do. You can't impose that upon them. So their boat may not rise at the same level as everyone else's, but don't fault yourself for them not achieving. Thank you for sharing that, Leslie, because that was very personal, and that's what makes this this panel different. People do share personal things. Same thing with you, Rhonda.
You're welcome.
So Mark, I'm going to put you on the hot seat, and then we're going to introduce Tommy and tell him what's going on. So Tommy will give you a minute to think of what your success is for the week, and then we're going to come to you. Mark, biggest career mistake, and how did it impact you, good or bad?
Well, I think my biggest career mistake, because I'm kind of a dinosaur, was pretty much along the lines of Elyse, where I poo-pooed social media, but obviously changed. So I won't spend a lot of time on that, but I'll tell you one that I find kind of interesting. So my hair turned white when I was 28 years old.
It looks
And
great.
being in the financial services industry, you know, I never thought about it, but I was vain, so I dyed my hair. And I realized that people who were in their 40s and their 50s didn't like listening to someone that they could tell was in their 20s or their 30s. So when I let my hair go back to the natural color, I didn't look as young anymore, and I did a lot better in business. So I guess the reality of it is even though it's not important, your appearance is really, really important when you're dealing with other people.
And a lot of things,
short and sweet.
Mark, and also, I mean, that really wasn't you could dye your hair, but we know what dyed hair looks like on men. There's, you know, some people are successful with it. Other people, it looks like they put shoe polish in their hair. It doesn't give you a lot of credibility. People are talking about whether you dye your hair. But if that's the way you are, if your hair is white hair, I think Phil Donahue did pretty well with white hair. He made a whole
So
career.
Peter Graves.
Yeah, so what you're given by God, embrace it. And if you embrace it instead of reject it, it's going to help you in all your relationships, business or otherwise. Confidence, right? It's all about confidence. It was less that I think that people thought you were older. It's like people said, "Hey, this guy's got a great mane of silver hair, and he doesn't care. He's not going to dye it. He's not going to dye his hair. You know, take him who he is." That's a great story. Thank you, Mark. Katia.
Well, actually, it's probably something that not many people know about me, but I was very successful into the beauty industry and had many hair salons and building hair salons on top of hair salons. And it was doing so well that I decided to go way bigger and opened a huge spa. It was 3,000 square feet. It looked like you were in France. It was truly my baby. And that was a complete failure. We had to close the door after 5 years. And one of the things that this failure has done for me, it gave me the biggest aha moment. Then I love opening businesses. I love taking them just to like 225,000. And after that, it's not really fun for me. And when I had to close the spa, one of the things that I realized is, and I don't know if it's especially women, but I took it very personally. I took it that I was the failure and not the business was the failure. I also didn't even want to look at why it failed. I totally moved on. I went to go back to school, and I said I will never be in business again. I went to do what I wanted to do as a child, to be a photojournalist. I got published. And then I had all of these cool artists around me who were so good and who couldn't make money because they didn't know how to run a business. And this is where I was just like, I have to be able to, for me to be able to face them and teach them about business, I really have to look at why did this spa not work. And this is where a lot of my foundation as a business coach really has come, is what worked for one business doesn't always work for another business. We really have to take in consideration our ideal client, our avatar, what pain point do we fix, and all of these things kind of came after. And then really I realized that I just want to help people to build their businesses, to get them going to, you know, 6-figure. And after that, you know, I'm done. But this was a huge failure for me.
Well, I'm glad that you're sharing it, because everyone assumes that every business person goes from success to success. But the question is a failure really a failure?
No.
Vanity allows us to think that we're going to be good in every business that we go into, and we're going to do it better than everyone else.
That's right.
Everyone has that feeling. People will go into Sullivan's where Chris works and says, well, if they only did this, they would make $1 million. I would be that person, by the way, Chris. I'm that type of person. And my vanity got a hold of me about 7-8 years ago. I came up with a restaurant concept. And I opened up a restaurant, and despite the fact that I have had family in the business forever and said, don't go into the restaurant business. It's the biggest, riskiest business it is. It's complete vanity to think that you'll be successful in it. And I have to tell you, I have never lost that amount of money that fast in my life. I don't think I could have lost it that fast in Vegas at a casino as fast as I lost in the restaurant business. I mean, terrible career mistake. It was pulling my efforts from all the other businesses I was running at that time that I knew how to do well. But that being said, I got an MBA in what not to do in business. Basically, I got the cheapest MBA you could ever have in the quickest period of time, and I will never go in the restaurant business. I frequently will talk with my wife about a concept that I have, and I know that I'm not going to pursue that. So that career mistake just indicated to me, you can't be great at everything. Find out what you are good at. But if you do have a failure, is it truly a failure if you learn something from it that you can bring to your other endeavors, whether they be personal or whether they be in business? Now, Katia and I had a long discussion today about, you know, why and philosophy of networking. Before I come over to Tommy, and because I'm giving Tommy to think about what his career mistake might have been, because I doubt he makes any mistakes, because he's a smart cookie, but he's going to figure out one for us. Katia, what did you pull from our talk today? What really struck out to you?
Then networking is really about building friendship. It's really about building friendship, building a circle of influence, and it's not. It's about getting to know each other, and really on a deeper level. And I think when we get to know each other, we really get to know what are our core values, what do we believe in. And I think all of that makes it so much easier to consider each other for businesses, because we know what we stand for, we know the values that we have. And for me, it's important to work with someone who has ethics and who have the same kind of value than I do. And when I get to know people on a personal level, it shows me so much about their business. When I get a phone call and I talk only like for 30 minutes with someone who's just going to talk business to me, and I know all they want is just to talk business, and it's a turn off.
It 100% is. And to understand, you know, networking more completely, you have to look at, you know, the type of exchange where we have here, where we're sharing about ourselves, things that may be a little bit difficult, a little bit embarrassing, but it lets people learn about us so that if they decide to do business with us, they absolutely can. Now, I'm going to switch over to Tommy. Tommy is someone that I absolutely respect. I'm very impressed by. He is definitive in his thought. He has very little doubt, a level of confidence that very few people have, and people should emulate. We've been having a little fun on social media. I've made a post about gravy or sauce, Italian sauce I made this weekend. And Tommy jumped in and says, there's no such thing as Italian gravy. That's not a word we use. So, of course, now we're having a massive discussion, and everyone's sharing articles. And explaining about that. But the beauty of it is Tommy didn't make anybody feel bad. You know, people go on social media nowadays and they call each other idiots. I mean, I don't like that. And they can't even restrain themselves from being nasty. Instead, we're having a great discussion of the etymology of a word. And people are bringing all sorts of information in. And that's the way networking needs to be. You can't be, well, I mean, frequently you'll meet someone, you may not get along with them. You think that, you know, you're going to reserve your opinion for now, but in the meantime, you're not going to interact with them. But someone in your network can bring that person back to you and say, hey, give that person another shot. Let me tell you a little bit about them. Let me explain their why. Let me be their advocate for that person so you can understand where they come from. Tommy is phenomenal at this. You know, Tommy's been a Rockstar Connect host for 4 years now, and he's helped us get hosts, and he's explained how these people tick. And people that may not have necessarily been my cup of tea, once he's explained to me, you know, their history and what they've done and who they've helped and accomplished, I've run to do business with them. And I appreciate you, Tommy, for that. But Tommy, what is first of all, real quickly, what do you do? And then what is a career mistake that's defined the way you do business or you network today?
Okay, so before we start, Mr. Elliot, did you get a haircut?
Yes, I did. On Sunday, my hair salon. I always give this woman a very large, inordinate tip, and I thought that was going to get me in the front door to be the first person to get my hair cut. But I showed up at the door, you know, before they opened, and I signed in, and they said it's going to be a 40-minute wait. So I went over to the grocery store, and I bought my wife her favorite Haagen-Dazs, which she has not had in a few months, and I bought some smoked salmon and a case of beer, and went in to go get my haircut 40 minutes later, and they said, you have another 40-minute wait. So I ended up waiting about over 2 hours for a haircut, but I think the payoff is great, except for Mark's hair. I mean, Mark's hair looks better than everyone's, but I think they did a pretty damn good job. So go ahead, Tommy. Career mistake.
So my biggest career mistake, if I had to pick one, was just working in my comfort zone. You know what grows in your comfort zone? Nothing. Nothing grows there but weeds. You got to get out of your comfort zone because that's where the real growth happens, you know. So don't take the easy road. Maybe take the hard road. Maybe do some things that you know. So when I got out of that comfort zone, it just made a world of difference in the things I do. You know, my comfort zone would be, oh, I didn't want to go here. I didn't want to go there. I wanted to work in my own backyard. But that's all nonsense. That's just excuses. That's just excuses. It doesn't really matter, especially in this world we live in today. You can do and work anywhere, especially with this platform. So that was my biggest mistake.
I mean, that enabled you to work with much wealthier clients too, I'm sure.
Sure did. It opened my eyes to what was possible, you know, and all I have to do is see it.
Well, Tommy, you know, Tommy, not only is he a Rockstar Connect host, he is a host of 4 or 5 Rockstar Connect events that he does per month in South Florida, in different cities all over South Florida. And he teaches the agents that work underneath him how to be good facilitators of those events. And because of that, he's helping them get out of their comfort zone. So when you're mentoring people, that's important. You know, when they say, hey, I can't get business, I can't do this, I can't do that, give them the opportunity to do something that's worked for you.
For sure.
Perhaps they'll have the same experience. I mean, Tommy's not saying, like, I want all the business. He's, I want all the people in my organization to be successful, therefore I'm successful.
I mean, you know, Stephen, what we do for a living is, you know, we teach businesses and individuals how to get out of debt. We teach financial literacy. We don't ask them for money. We show them how to use their money more efficiently. So for someone to tell me that they can't find anybody to talk to, that's impossible. It's impossible. It is impossible. If you told me you got on the phone, you made 500 phone calls and you can't find somebody to talk to about their debt, I don't believe it. it's you're going to stumble upon 2 or 3 people that may want to talk to you, you know. So you have to put the work in. Don't be afraid to work. You know, don't work in your comfort zone. Get out of your comfort zone and be available. Be available to the people who want to work with you. Be available. Pick up the phone. Sometimes my wife is like, "You can pick up the phone? It's 7 o'clock in the morning." Yeah, I'm going to pick up the phone. Why? Because I'm open 24/7. We never close. That's why.
100%. I mean, I've had the benefit of having, you know, when there was a certain point where I did a career change, and I had a cousin who was my father's first cousin. So he was my father's age, roughly. And he had been a salesperson his entire life. Since like this as a kid. He said, "Stephen, you think you're a salesperson, but you're a marketing person. You don't know anything about sales. You don't know how to close. You don't know how to get on a phone." He says, "I'm going to teach you how to eat." He says, "Come work with me." And he taught me the fundamentals of sales. And he said, sales, like anything else in your life, is a numbers game. You're always paying to make that telephone ring, right, Tommy? You're paying to make that telephone ring. It's up to you whether you answer the phone. It's like the guy that says, you know, goes into the church, and he's walking down the aisle, and he says, "God, you know, I prayed for wealth, and I prayed for your help, and I even bought a lottery ticket every single week, and I didn't win on the lotto ticket." You know, I'm totally screwing up this joke, but let me give you the punchline. The punchline is, if you don't buy the lottery ticket, you can't win. If you don't make the phone call, you're not going to get the business. So many people in business, it's a lifestyle of avoidance of relationships and friendships. And I understand that, because it's scary, right, Leslie? When you're not confident, you know, when you're young, you don't like the way you look, you don't like the way you speak, you don't like the way you dress. So you avoid every situation that can make you successful.
Well, you know, Stephen, when I was younger, someone gave me this slogan. I'm going to share it with everybody. It's, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
It's 100% true.
Wayne Gretzky and Michael Jordan.
Yes, Gretzky.
Yeah. Scott, I mean, you're jumping in on this, and hold on, Scott, because you know, if we put some sports metaphors in here, Scott's going to jump right in on this. I heard on NPR once. I heard about basketball players that score very high. They visualize scoring baskets all day.
Yep.
That's what they do. They don't even have to go out on the court and shoot baskets. They just think about hitting baskets all day long. And that's the way it needs to be on sales. It's like every call I'm going to have is successful, whether someone purchases something from me or not, because I've established that relationship. I've honed my craft. I've listened to another person to establish what their needs are. And if I can help them with their needs, whether I sell them something or not, I'm going to satisfy their wants. And that's a success. Scott, worst career mistake you've ever had, and how you've applied some of the things that Tommy and I just discussed.
Yeah, certainly. And Stephen too. I mean, you're so right in being a master of your craft. You and I oftentimes role play, real play, and I appreciate that. You know, it's kind of, I always encourage people that I've managed throughout the years, go ahead and burn one call, or we'll do like a ring, right? And test it back and forth. But I would say for me, the biggest career, you know, failure is I was an entrepreneur besides being born at one. At the age of 21 years old, I had a window cleaning, pressure cleaning, gutter cleaning company, and started it by myself by knocking on doors, and then quickly grew it to where I had 5 employees that worked for me in sunny South Florida. And in 2006, I looked to relocate my family to the Carolinas and went back into corporate America versus staying in business for myself. If only I would have known Katia back then, right? She would have come up with some kind of another plan for me to have stayed being a business owner. But I guess my advice for others is just don't stop, you know, following your passion. I mean, trust your intuition. I think that was a few people on the panel said that. You know, Elyse said that, Leslie said that, and maybe Katia can help me articulate what I'm trying to tell the audience better than what I'm saying it. But, you know, Stephen, after owning my own business, I went back into retail management for 10 years and then spent the last 3 years in banking. And then finally, just stop being afraid, stop being scared, just knowing, hey, what's a worst case scenario? Worst case scenario is I go back into working for someone else, corporate America, which there's nothing wrong with that. I had no problem working for someone else, but I'm just so happy and so refreshed and just truly enjoy what I'm doing these days.
Excellent. Stephen Powell. Biggest career mistake and how it's impacted you, good or bad?
So I'll answer that in a couple. The first is my biggest career mistake is I didn't know what I didn't know, and it was not knowing coming into business. So I had no sales experience. I had a 20-year background in the corporate world. I was a single dad with 5 kids going into real estate. And I had a huge learning curve because I didn't know marketing. I didn't know sales. I didn't know that anything. And I didn't, from my background, I dropped out of high school. I was on my own at 16, worked hard. So my knowledge coming into self-employment 15 years ago was limited. Now, it's a different story. But what I didn't know is that when you're an ambitious guy and you work hard and you achieve success, at the end of the year, they come to you and say, congratulations, here is your trophy. And by the way, you owe the IRS $80,000. Congratulations. And so my biggest business, and that impacted me, wrecked my credit, put a lien on my house, caused years of stress, because it put me in a position to rob Peter to pay Paul for a very long time because the systems were not there. So it took a couple years, but here's the other thing that happened because of that, is that it put me in a position of being taken advantage of by people whom I relied on that perpetrated that they were professionals and could provide a solution. So it caused the problem to go further than it ever should have because they were, I was being preyed upon for my ignorance, in those situations. And you see that happen in any industry. So I would tell anyone that's thinking of going into business, thinking of being an entrepreneur, have your foundations in place. Consult a CPA. See if you need to set up a corporation. Whereas in my case, I needed to. So that would be the biggest thing that ever impacted me. The second biggest thing, the mistake that I've made, and unfortunately it's perpetuated, is not building and maintaining a database. So I'm very good at sales. I'm very good at marketing. I'm very good at going and getting the business. However, where I failed was bringing on someone that alongside me that would be able to maintain the minutia that I don't enjoy doing. But now I don't have a business to sell 15 years later. Yes, I make an amazing living. Yes, I sell like crazy. But if you were to look at me now versus 15 years ago, my database is the same. Shame on me. Biggest mistakes. If I could tell you, I'd like to correct that. Will I correct it? No, because I don't like doing it. Until I hire somebody, right? But I'm going to tell you, those are the biggest mistakes to avoid. Those are them.
Well, Stephen, I think I guess everyone's going to be starting the year in the next month or so, even though January is long past us. When the market's all up, Rockstar Connect would love to help you, nurture and develop that database, especially with the people that you've been meeting through your event, so that you're able to reach out to those people and make them a meaningful part of your business today. So please take us up.
I won't say no. I won't say no to that.
100%. That goes to any of our hosts that are.
And then I got to throw some other things on, because everybody has shared some really wonderful things about achievements. And like Leslie, I think one of my gifts is being able to take extremely complex things and simplifying them. And I alluded to this at the beginning, the fundamentals. What are the fundamentals that we deal with? Necessity is the mother of invention and always will be. And that's where creating the vision for yourself and your business. So when I create that vision, I know what I want. I have, in fact, created a necessity that creates a vacuum that the universe now wants to fill. But it's necessity that creates the vacuum for that and for things to transpire and take place. Much like getting a cut starts the scab. You don't get the scab until you get the cut. The exchange and this is interesting. I pondered this today because I just took my DISC assessment again, and my last DISC assessment was a decade ago, and I was shocked to see how much I've changed in a decade from that last assessment. And the exchange, the currency of achievement is character. That's the trade, is becoming something different in exchange, because I've got to give something of myself and become something new in order to be ready to receive that. And my last thought is this, because people were talking about fear, talking about courage. I recently was working with a real estate agent who was going on a very high priced appointment, and they were nervous, and they asked for advice. And so I shared with them what we're not taught is the polarity of frequency. So fear and courage are the same thing. It's just a frequency of degree. So where we make the mistake is we'll say, oh, I'm nervous, I'm nervous, I'm nervous. Well, in order to raise that frequency, we have to just switch the talk. I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited. And that nervousness now becomes an excitement that can be an asset. And so this is like one of the best things that I've ever learned, is that things are not separate. They're one side of another. So if you don't like where you're at, if you're feeling anxious, then you can get to that other side. If you're afraid, you can get to the other side of courage. It's like hot and cold. It's just a difference of degree.
Well, that's some excellent knowledge to share, and it's something that I totally agree with. When there gets to be a certain stage of your life, and that was great advice that you gave your mentee. And I'll take it even further. There's nothing to be afraid of, because if you don't get the business, that business probably wasn't meant for you anyway. But in the interim, just like I said before, now you've had the opportunity to be on that stage. You're in the big show. You're even being considered for that opportunity. The next time that happens, you're going to be even more prepared.
Absolutely.
You're getting a real life role playing opportunity. I think, let's bring Asa in. Asa is also another, master salesperson, real estate agent. Biggest career mistake you've ever had, and how has it impacted your life? And you can touch on a little bit of what Steven said as well. And I'm calling on you because I can see you were getting into what he had to say. So go ahead, Asa.
Yeah. So I was thinking here about what would be my worst, and I think that it's in the beginning. I mean, starting out in corporate America against my own desires and wishes. I had an opportunity to work in sales from the get-go after getting out of college here at NC State, and parents, friends, peers, saying, hey, you need a safety net. You need to make you some money, something that's certain, and not a commission job or anything like that. And it took 8 years, before I was able to, realize that just the same way I thought I needed to have a job to pay my bills, I could say I could do this business. I could have my own business and pay my bills the exact same way. It's the same mindset. It just works that way. And so, it was a huge mistake because, hey, it cost me years. But then, what I learned from it, right? What was the good thing from it, right? Was that I was able to get somehow into the leadership of $1 billion receivable, learn a lot of interpersonal training, learn how to relate to people. How I was a manager of people, so I had to make sure that I was herding those cats, you know what I'm saying, and getting people to get along. I learned a lot. And so when I, being in the leader in that situation, when I got back into real estate here, and when I finally just said, that's it, I can't work anymore in 2001, I jumped back into real estate, as that's what I'm going to do. I thrived at it. Now, when you think about networking and, what working at, going back to what Steve was saying, just how to keep yourself going. I always say success is as long as you're pursuing a worthwhile and worthy goal, right? Or ideal. And, for me, when you're getting into the habit of meeting people and networking and getting along with people, I read a book a few years ago, or it might be 10 years now. The years are going quick. Click. And I don't know if anybody's familiar with that book, Click, but it was an amazing book for me, because You know, if you ever walked around and you say, you know, I met this person and we clicked. Now, there's a science behind that. And after reading that book, you know, in a nutshell, it's sort of saying, hey, you meet people every day. People are entitled to their own experiences. They're entitled to be who they are, right? And you don't want, I always just say, I don't need to meet a world full of aces, right? How monotonous and boring would that be for me? But if you meet someone and you're able to get what we call 3 clicks, 3 commonalities, you have a 60% chance of being able to, you know, aligning, having your visions, missions, and goals, whatever, align with that person. And so, you know, when you meet a person, you're always searching for the click, you know. So the example, you know, would be, you know, hi, how are you? I'm, you know, my name's Fleming. I'm from New York. And someone says, hi, I'm Steve. I'm from Wyoming. That's not a click, right? You know, I have children. Well, I hate kids. You know, I decided not to, you know, so now we're not clicking. So after, you know, 3 or 4 of those, you probably don't want to align yourself with that person because it's just not working, no matter how much you try. And people spend hours trying to make it work, you know, fit that square peg in a round hole, you know? So, you know, but if you, at the same time, it's true, if you do meet someone and, you know, hey, I'm Ace, I'm from New York. Yeah, I'm from New York as well. You know, I'm in real estate. I'm in real estate. You know, I love kids. I have kids of my own. I have a dog. You know, that relationship, you can do business with that person. You're probably going to align with them and you're going to create a relationship that fosters and also brings you other relationships. And so that was a book that really stood out for me as far as networking. I recommend it. It's totally helped me out, you know, as far as looking at people and staying.
Can you drop the name of it? And can you drop the name of it in the chat?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah, you brought up something very interesting. You said, you know, I don't want to hang out with 1,000 aces. Right?
Well, a world full of aces. I mean, how monotonous.
It's a really difficult problem. Because sometimes I'll say, boy, that person is so similar to me. We have the same mindset. We may even do the same business. Boy, I really dislike that person. I don't want to spend that much time looking at myself in the mirror. It's very difficult. But that's something that you really need to get over, because you also know all the good things about that person. You also know all the weaknesses. Look to someone in your network that can bring you together, that may be the intermediary between you and that person, so that you can either work with one another with someone in between, or eventually you can eliminate the need of that intermediary and you can slowly be introduced to each other. It's like when you bring a new dog into the family, you need to slowly introduce them to one another, because, I mean, if you like yourself and you're confident in your skills, and you know there's other people out there that are similar to you that you're avoiding simply because you want to avoid yourself, boy, are you missing a tremendous amount of opportunity. So, you know, frequently, you know, Scott will do that for me. He'll be an intermediary between someone else that's similar to me, and I'll do the same thing for him if he wants to interact with someone, but maybe not so closely, so we can be introduced to each other slowly and bring together our superpowers. So a career mistake that a lot of people that do is they say, wow, this person, they're almost exactly like me. I'm going to avoid them. Don't do that. Just find the appropriate way that you can align yourselves with one another. And I see Leslie's agreeing with me on that as well. I'm going to jump over to Bruce Hill, you know, the real estate DNA, and he's going to share with us a little bit of thoughts on what everyone else said. But in addition to that, share a career mistake with us, Bruce.
All right. So I apologize, Stephen. I was off of the call for 30 minutes. I had 2 unavoidable coaching calls that I had to get on. So
I'm glad you jumped back in, because I was getting a little scared and worried.
Oh, I'm sure you were. I came back and you were like just starting to, you're sweating and everything. So no, I'm just kidding.
It's late. Yeah.
So, oh man, career mistakes. Legitimately, I have too many to count. What I tell a lot of people when it comes to working with me is they want to work with me because things have not come easy for me. Pretty much anything that I've tried in my life, I've royally screwed up to start with. And there are a lot of people out there that don't have that experience. Many times people are just naturally gifted at certain things, and that's great. envious of some of them. That has not been my experience. I've messed up in more ways than anyone can imagine. But I think that the biggest mistakes that I've made have all led back, this is a general term, have all led back to failing to lay a foundation, failing to properly think through the process of any action that I've taken. So an example is moved here to Raleigh, North Carolina. I had a real estate team in Virginia, and we were doing like 250 transactions a year. The team was doing really well. We had lots of business coming in, people calling that would just say, hey, come list my house, which is great. If you're in real estate, the come list me call is the best thing that you could possibly have. And we figured out over time through an evolution in our business how to get that. And much like any business that is established over time, little by little, you take on expenses and you plug in different resources and systems into your business over time. And I moved to North Carolina without the team, without the partner, without the income, and immediately said, okay, if these 10 things that were costing me money in Virginia to generate business, if I can just plug them into this new market, I will be successful. And I failed to lay the foundation and properly think through the process of what it took there. And there, we didn't know what we were doing. It was a little bit of an accident. We found things that worked, and I knew the things that worked, but I just forgot the audience base and the branding base that you have to lay to get there. And within 6 months, I was completely broke. I spent every amount of capital that I'd saved up over 6 years of selling real estate at a high level. And I was basically back at ground zero. Now with knowledge, I was at ground zero practicing real estate almost like a brand new agent without money. So
it puts you back to basics.
Yeah, makes you go back to basics. It made me plug into networking, which I had neglected and forgotten about for many, many, many years. It made me plug into my sphere of influence. It made me plug into crafting and refining the words that I said and the way that I said them. So to a degree, it's the best thing that could have happened to me, because if I had just been successful like I was before, if those things would have worked quickly, or I could have pushed through by spending money, I would not have a coaching business today. I'd still be selling real estate.
Which is something you didn't enjoy as much as coaching. So it allowed you to, it allowed you to go into what you really wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for so many entrepreneurs, the ebb and flow is exciting and it's invigorating, and starting over again and doing something new is big. I mean, that's how I started Rockstar Connect. You know, I had went into something that I thought I would do the rest of my life. And instead of, becoming complacent in it and saying, gosh, I'm bored with this now. I need to do something new, regardless of what it's going to cost me. Because people, they get stagnant and they feel the need to be reinvented. Mm-hmm. If I was to ask everyone here the things that they've done in their life and people were listening, they would call you liars. They would, because they've done the same thing the same way their entire life. To hear that you've done 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different things in your life, it absolutely blows their mind. But it's not so much that you want to do that, it's that you need to do that. So for those of you that are listening in the audience, that if you have that trajectory, that is the trajectory of an entrepreneur. It's where we get our stimulation. It's where we get our excitement, and we make our contribution because we see something being done one way and we want to contribute to show how it can be done differently, not necessarily better, but how it can be done differently through our vision.
It's true, Stephen. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
Most entrepreneurs that I know will bite off more than they can chew and figure out how to swallow it.
Exactly. It's like there's a big piece of steak there.
Yeah.
You got 5 minutes to eat it. You might as well shove that whole thing down your gullet at that point, and we'll figure out later on how you're going to get it down.
Right.
And, we're talking about stakes, and we're talking about changing careers. Now, Chris Rogers has reinvented himself at least, and he's young, at least 4 times that I know of. So we're saying career mistake. We're saying career mistake because that's understandable to the greater people in the audience. I know none of you really feel that you made a mistake, but you're being big people and saying that you made a mistake. It's part of the process. It's part of the education. And that challenge is what makes us who we are and gives us the strength that we have. So Chris, share a little bit about your career and how it's impacted you today.
Well, let me tell you, so my career is, boy, this is a long one. So I'm going to try to make it as short and sweet as possible. So I'm from Fayetteville, North Carolina, made a lot of mistakes going through high school, dropped out, got a GED, just went right into the restaurant industry, started cooking, started serving, started doing all these things. And then at 24, decided to go on the road and jump into the advertising world for about 7 years. So then I traveled all over the country. I worked with Chamber of Commerce's all over the United States. During that time, I got to make so many connections with so many communities around the United States. It was a blast. Age 31, I decided to get off the road and had to figure out what I wanted to do. And guess what? Got dragged right back into the restaurant industry. Kept moving up the ladder of success, became an assistant manager, became a GM, started getting hounded from restaurants to come and run their places. After killing myself doing 70 hours a week, I finally decided, hey, it may be time to do sales again. So I took both of my loves, put them together, and here I am as a sales and event coordinator for Sullivan Steakhouse. So basically the best of both worlds to where I am now. Mistakes, plenty, made tons of them through the years, but I treat them all as educational experiences. In my mind, every little step that I've taken along the way has got me to where I am right here. And right now I'm happier than I've ever been in my life. And I apologize, but I'm the only one running the front. So I need to run back and forth, pick up phones and get to the orders. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I mean, Chris has really kept his organization moving. And, he's running now the restaurant here in Raleigh and also the restaurant here in Charlotte. And, basically running the whole operation and keeping it going. But Chris, I thought that Chris would be someone for you to speak with offline. I think that would be a great connection for you.
Sure.
And this is about connecting. So, at the end of the panel, I'm going to ask everyone who they want to connect with on the panel so we can facilitate that. If anybody that's in the audience right now has had a career mistake that's led to something different, please share that in the chat so we can learn a little bit more about you as well and help you network properly with the people that you want. So Mark, I always seem to leave you for the very end. And part of that is really Mark is a solution to a lot of entrepreneurs' issues. And what he has done is he has figured out by looking at, having his own mistakes in business or in his career and said, hey, I know how to prevent that for other people. So I felt that if I would let him reflect on what everyone else is saying, he's going to come up with something that's earth shaking, putting a lot of pressure on you. But yeah, Mark, career mistake and how it's brought you to where you are today.
Well, a little pressure there. Well, what I was going to say is an error that you learn something is a lesson. A mistake where you just walk away and learn nothing, that's a mistake. So in terms of the biggest mistakes, you're jumping on what Chris and basically what you alluded to. If you learn something from it, it takes you a step closer to where we are today. So in terms of that, I don't have truly a big list of mistakes because another corollary to that is they say true regrets is not what you've done, what you didn't do, the things you didn't take the opportunity to do. So I've always lived with that, deciding that if I'm going to make a mistake or an error, it's going to be jumping into something. It's not going to be letting an opportunity to go by. It's not going to let, not going up and talking to that person go by because I'm a little shy or I'm intimidated. So because of that, I'm not going to look back and look at any of the screw-ups, and there's a couple, as mistakes because something came out of it. Everything.
Well, finding a solution to a mistake is actually, other people have had that same mistake. And once you found the solution, that's something marketable that you can sell.
Absolutely. I've screwed up just about everything.
So you've automatically have created a marketable, sellable skill. And it's like what Tommy said, you know, grab the biggest bite of that steak as you possibly can, and then you'll figure out how to swallow it as you're going. But if you didn't take that big bite of steak, someone else is going to eat that steak.
In fact, it was great. If you remember Brian Smith from, I think it was last week, he was on Talking Culture Index. I got to take that survey, and one of the great characteristics that came out of that is he says, a lot of people just jump into things and figure, we'll just work it out, figure it out later. And that's one of the things I've been fortunate enough to be able to do, is just jump into it. I've had everything from a tanning salon to a market deli to law office to a commercial mortgage that we were doing table funding. And if anyone knows that nightmare, you know, that was a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
But something came out of each and every one of those things, and I got the opportunity. So I have a lot of great stories.
Well, I mean, Rockstar Connect was created essentially in an opportunity. You know, Sarah, you know, I knew I was doing something great for over a decade. And the question that people always ask is, what you're doing is great. How do you monetize that? How do you scale that? Well, the reality is you really don't know until you actually attempt to do it. So, you know, when we started Rockstar Connect, you know, my partner at the time, he said, okay, so we started it. He says, now how do we go get clients? And I said, this is how you get clients. And I got on the phone and I made 5 phone calls and I got 5 clients. We didn't even have a program yet. But those people, they knew us through networking, they trusted us and they liked us. And they said, hey, we want to see what you're going to do. We know you're going to deliver, because I think one of the biggest things about being an entrepreneur is that your mouth writes checks that your ass can cash. Who's heard that expression before? Tommy,
No, but I'm going to steal it.
Is there a more truer expression than that? You know, when you tell people, you know, you can't overpromise. You know, it's like, you know, Leslie was coming on as a panelist on the show, and, you know, she wanted to know what's the purpose of it and what's going to unfold. I really don't know. I don't prepare much for things like this. But that being said, you know, I have 4 years of radio experience, and I know we shouldn't have dead air. And if you have good people that have things to contribute, they're going to fill that air with things that are valuable to people in the audience. And there are people that are listening to this, they're going to hear what everyone has to say, and they're going to take from it what's going to add value for them. Leslie, I know that you want to talk a little bit more about this subject, and then we'll go over, I'm going to bring it back to Katia after that. Go ahead, Leslie.
What subject? Because I already had my turn. Which subject?
Well, the subject now is everyone has shared their career mistake.
Yeah.
It was, you know, might have been a little painful for some of the people here. They really shared with other people. What is the advantage in business to sharing? Is there an advantage to showing some of your weakness?
Yes, absolutely. Because, well, my experience is that you really arrive when you can be vulnerable, right? When you can tell on yourself, when you can be 100% responsible. Right, and speakers do this a lot, use self-deprecation as a way to be vulnerable to the audience. What the sharing does, it gives you an insight into who you really are, something that you were talking about earlier, and I don't remember which gentleman was talking about it. I think this guy with all the little burgundy squares behind, Thomas. You know, there are certain universal laws that are out there. And what happens when we share, we learn. We become more aware of our infinite potential. So if you're not willing to step out of your comfort zone, and that was Thomas, even if it's a little. So one of my specialties is achievement. And I've discovered, particularly for women and men too, but for women, that there really is no class to grow confidence. Now, what I've discovered is, and it's taken a long time, is that confidence, particularly for women, is a byproduct of achievement. The problem is that no one I've ever met has ever learned how to set a goal that they will achieve consistently and predictably in spaced intervals over time. Now, I spent 12 years coming up with the benchmarks and got a lot of them from Think and Grow Rich. Once you know the rules, then you begin to repeat exactly how to do this, and thereby confidence grows. So as far as sharing, to answer your question, you have to be willing to look at yourself. And maybe it was you too, Thomas, that said you didn't like looking at people who were like you. We find the worst in others, the things that we don't like about ourselves, we will immediately see in someone else. My teachings are looking for the greatness. The other side, the gentleman with the palm tree in the back was talking about the law of polarity. It's either up or down, faith or fear. Right? So the only difference between Katia and myself and everybody else is the amount of time, as you get good at this, that you stay in the low moment before you realize it and jump to the polar opposite. I've spent days in my marriage decades ago being angry. Anybody ever had 2 or 3 days? The lowest possible vibration puts your body into disease and it's miserable. Now, as you share and you become more aware of your infinite potential, even just a little bit outside of your comfort zone, you begin to realize that you can do it. And you realize that you did a damn good job. The difficulty is that there's only 3 people out of every 100 that are willing to throw their hat over the fence, right? Even a little bit. So keep sharing, because I made my biggest money on stage really being vulnerable, really telling my story, really having people crying in the audience. I was afraid. But it makes them think that, well, if she can do it, so can I.
That's excellent points and great advice. And I sort of think about, like, I'm an introverted extrovert. It's hard to pry me out of my cave, but once I'm out of my cave, I do really well. And then I'm happy and I'm in the groove. And I know it's that way for a lot of the attendees at our events and hosts that come to our events. Sarah and I, we host our own event. We've been doing it for 10 years, every single month except for COVID, which is sort of, but we've been still networking this way, of course. And we've actually had people attend the events and they've come up to us and they say, we belong to the social anxiety meetup group here in Raleigh, North Carolina. And we come here as a group and come to your events so we can overcome our social anxiety. And I'm thinking about, these are people that have real, paralysis and doubt and about themselves. And they actually physically feel ill to go in this situation. But yet they feel comfortable enough, and they're going out of their comfort zone, like Tommy said, to get beyond that. And it's so important for all of us, that say, hey, well, I know there's an event Thursday night, and it may be Steven's event or someone else's event, but I'm just not going to go because I don't want to put myself out in front of people. I don't want to shave. I'm nervous. And realize and recognize that when you put yourself out of that comfort zone like that, you can do phenomenal things for yourself. And what Leslie was talking about, where you see when you're uncomfortable with people that are like yourself, and you say you've identified something in their personality that's similar to yours that you hate in yourself, can you now reframe that and say, wow, people admire that person because they're the way they are, and they have the same attribute that I have. Maybe I can celebrate that attribute now.
I was going to tell you that one of the mantras in my mastermind that I've been running, we're in our 28th consecutive business quarter. There are 7 mantras, and one of them is, I'm the mirror of your greatness, and you're the mirror of mine, right? The greatness that I see in you, actually, greatness is a muscle. These are muscles, if you will, if you can visualize. So all of my clients look for what's missing that would make them great, looking for the greatness. Now that is a reflection of your own greatness. So you can either find the things you don't like about yourself and other people and really build that negative energy up. Or, oh, look at how terrible they are, right? Or you can look at, wow, they just did a phenomenal job at this.
And I'm able to do it too.
Exactly
I can do the
right.
same thing because I have that same attribute.
Absolutely.
Tommy came in on the second hour. Tommy's one of our favorite panelists. Everybody wants to speak with Tommy because he has so much wisdom. Tommy, why don't you close this out, and then I'll ask everybody who they want to network with. What are your final thoughts?
Here's my final thoughts. If you're in sales, like I think everybody is on this call, are you the kind of guy who's going to go out that day with a handful of appointments, see 3, 4 people, close those deals, and that 5th person, that 6 or 7 o'clock call, are you going to go on that call, or are you going to blow that guy off because you made 3 calls? If you're going to blow that guy off, call me. I'll go out and see him. That's what it's going to take to distinguish yourself between everybody else. And you have to be as good on that last appointment as you were on the first appointment. Can you be that guy? Can you wear that badge? Can you do it? Ask yourself that question. If you went out and you sold 3 houses earlier, and that 4th house that's sitting there, that little bungalow that you don't know what's going to happen, are you going to give that guy the same service as the last 3 sales you just made? Or are you going to be like the rest of the schlubs, so they're just going to go home?
Yeah.
That's my thought for the day.
That's a great thought. It almost brings me to tears, and 100% believe it. I think tonight, everyone who's in the audience watching this on Facebook or in the chat audience that are panelists, let's take one call tonight after 5 o'clock, or let's make one call today.
I have 3.
After we eat. Yeah, I took a call last night at 10:30 at night. It's $400,000 listing, nothing to sneeze at. It's one of those people call me up and say, list my home. And I could have just as easily said, let's wait till Friday. And, they would have spoke to 2 other people that would have been willing to take their call, or 3 or 4. They could have called Asa, and Asa would have had that deal, because I know Asa is going to answer his call. Remember, guys, think back to when we had the yellow pages. All of us here are old enough to remember the yellow pages and have paid for a yellow page ad. And I used to pay $30,000 a month in yellow page ads to get my phone to ring. Answer your phone. Key to business. If you don't show up, you're never going to get the business. Tommy, which one of these panelists do you want to speak with here?
Well, there's a couple of them I am working with. I'm working with Elyse Archer. I don't see her on here anymore, but I know we'll be talking after this. We got some stuff going on there. Bruce Hill, I know we have an appointment with. We're going to talk Thursday. Anybody who wants to talk with me, I'm available.
Excellent.
Available, ready to work.
See, and he's living what he said. Leslie, who would you like to connect with here? They can be someone you even know that you really haven't had a deep conversation with. You need to unmute yourself, dear.
The gentleman who's not here, the one that had the palm trees in the background. Who was that, in California?
Stephen Powell out in California.
There he is. Okay, there you are. I can see that we are aligned, and I'd love to chat with you some more and find out about your background and maybe how we can help each other.
You'll love a lot of the things Stephen has done, and vice versa, 100%. It's definitely a good connection. Asa, who would you like to connect with? You done?
I'd love to meet Thomas.
Well, I think that's a great connection.
Yeah, put your information in the chat, and I'll contact you. Me or my assistant will contact you.
Sarah will make sure that he gets the information. Mr. Hill, who would you like to connect with?
Well, I've already got all of these scheduled. So Tommy and I are scheduled. Elyse Archer and I are scheduled. Mark Roberts and I are on the schedule for a second call. Leslie, I'd like to talk with you.
That would be awesome.
I could
send
see
you a friend request.
A co-coaching type of event. I think it would be really good.
Yes, and I actually work with women primarily and a few smart men, so I think it'll work perfectly.
Wonderful.
I think that you guys would get along very well. Scott, who would you like to connect with? Mr. Rutter.
Leslie and Stephen.
Scott? Okay.
Which, Stephen Powell. Excellent. I think that would be a great connection for you. Mr. Roberts, who would you like to connect with?
Well, I'm in the follow-up stages. Scott, I just sent you that stuff that we talked about. Bruce, we got you on. Looking forward to do that. Kat is going to make dinner and be at the boat, so we got that cooking, so that's great. Before I talk to Tommy, so I need to talk with Asa and Leslie. We're gonna get you guys chatting.
Katia, did I give you the opportunity? Who would you like?
Not yet. And I would love to connect with Asa. This is the first time then I've met him, and with Stephen Powell as well.
Excellent. And I just want to point something out. You know, Asa and I have never met. We've never had a conversation. But because we use the tool of social media and we communicate with one another, we like each other's posts, we comment on each other's posts, and we've communicated in that way, it leads the groundwork so that relationships can be done in the future. So don't forget to use that digital tool. You know, you can't have every phone call, but you should be at least prepared to have that phone call. Mark, are you still there? Mark, Mr. Sher? He may have jumped on a call, but you know, you definitely want to connect with Mark. And we're at the end of the official meeting today. Our panelists can jump into the HIO room, the HIO virtual lounge, as can members of the audience. If you are listening on Facebook and you'd like to go into the HIO lounge, we're keeping that open for 1 more hour. You can go to the Rockstar Connect website to get into that lounge and do some old-fashioned face-to-face networking. We are planning to be doing networking events in July. Scott is going to be helping me, and Mark and Bruce and Tommy and Stephen to make that happen. So we're really looking forward to that. If you'd like to be a panelist on this program, Sarah has already dropped that into the chat, and she's going to enable that for you as well if you feel you have some value to provide. Everyone on the panel, if you could please raise your hand like this. Everyone's got to do it. Okay, wave goodbye. Thank you so much for attending today. We'll see you at 3 Martini Lunch next week, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.